Hello, Mr. Loudermilk back with another shared lesson. Again, we're going to be talking about clearing fractions. Today is lesson 1.5, day 2. The objective for today is just, again, to be able to solve equations by clearing the decimals and fractions first, and then understand that you need to show your work, and you're not supposed to be using a calculator. So that's the big thing here. The reason that we're showing the clearing fractions and decimals is so that you can do a lot of this work without a calculator. We want to make sure that you have these rote skills down and you can see how you can utilize small denominators to really ease the burden of the problem. All right, so let's move into our warm-up. Again, by now, this is our 6th or 7th lesson, so you know that the warm-up should be done before you start the video. So if you haven't started it yet, please do it. Pause the video. I'm going to go through it as if you've already done it. So our fraction review, really quickly, we're just showing how you can clear fractions with common denominators or multiples of the denominator. So here we have 3/4 times 8. So you could just think of the 8 as 8 over 1. Multiply across the top. 3 times 8 is 24. Multiply across the bottom. 4 times 1 is 4. And then you could divide. 24 divided by 4 is 6. That is one way to do it. I want to show you a trick, though. I think that a lot of you guys can utilize this trick. You got great number sense. That's why you're in this accelerated algebra class. So instead of doing all that, what if I said, all right, well, let's see. I'm multiplying by 8. 8 is twice the value of my denominator. So let me just take twice the value of my numerator. What's 3 times 2? 6. Boom. Done. Let's try that on number 2. They want me to multiply by 15. Well, 15 is 3 times the value of my denominator. So what's 3 times the value of my numerator? Answer would be 6. Okay, that's the trick. Another way to think of the trick, what if I just divided first? What if I did 15 divided by 5? 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. Again, a lot of times we do these warm-ups is to show you tricks that you probably already know. Utilize math facts that you already have in your prerequisite knowledge and try to make things simpler for you through the awesome world of math. Again, number 3, let's divide first. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. There's my final answer. If you don't like that simplified model, I can show you the long version again. So it was 1/3 times 9, but we're going to make 9 a fraction, so we'll make it 9 over 1. And then I would multiply across the top. 1 times 9 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Again, there is nothing wrong with doing the long way. If you don't understand the shortcut yet, don't have that number sense or whatever it is, maybe you didn't understand the way I taught it, absolutely you can go back to the long version. It'll always be right. Okay, but notice if you do start understanding that shortcut, it saves you a decent amount of time. And we're not trying to solve super fast. We're just trying to become efficient problem solvers. That's a huge one of the goals, overarching themes in algebra is to become great problem solvers, because that's the life skill that's going to translate into the real world. Okay, so let's move on to the actual lesson. Again, yesterday, if you remember, we talked about common denominators, we talked about clearing fractions, we talked about what terms were, we talked about what needed to be multiplied. Again, here's another example. We have 1/3 being distributed to the left side, we have -2/3 being distributed to the right side. If I were to distribute that, I would be left with fractions in my second step. I never want to have fractions in my second step. So what I can do is I can clear right away. So I'm going to write out my steps, D, C, G, A, M. Now you might notice today that we are going to have to repeat the distribution step. So the first, all right, so now that I look at that and I know that I might have to distribute multiple times, what is my common denominator? Well, I only have 2 denominators in this. I have the 3 here and I have the 3 here. So those are the only 2 numbers I got to look at when determining my common denominator. And since they're already the same, I know exactly what my denominator is that's common. It's 3. Here's where it gets tricky. Where do I distribute the 3? In yesterday's lesson, there weren't parentheses within parentheses. We didn't have to deal with this. Today there are. So what I think of as I distribute to everything that is outside of the original parentheses. So I got to distribute to this. The 2x minus 4 were already inside parentheses. They are protected by another level of defense. Don't distribute to those. I distribute to this, 5, because it was originally outside of parentheses. There's no parentheses around the 5. I distribute to it. I distribute to the negative 2/3. I do not touch the x plus 1, again, because it has an additional level of defense. I do not distribute into it, okay? Some people forget to distribute to the 5. The 5 doesn't have an original fraction. That does not matter. You got to distribute to it. You got to keep everything equal on both sides. All right, so when I multiply everything by 3 that was outside of parentheses originally, I get 1 times the quantity of 2x minus 4. And some of you may be asking, why am I writing it like this? We know that when we distribute 1, it doesn't do anything. I know, but this is the first time we're dealing with a problem like this. I want to show you every step just so you see every single possible thing that could happen here. Then I multiply by the 3 to the 5. 3 times 5 is 15, so I get plus 15. Then I do negative 2/3 times 3. Nice thing about it being the denominator, I just have to clear the denominator, so I get negative 2. Or you could do the long way. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 3. I'm sorry. Yeah, negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Good. And then the x plus 1 stays inside the parentheses. And I move on to the next step. Now I'm going to distribute. Well, over here, I mean, you could show the step, but we know that when we multiply by 1, it doesn't actually do anything. So I'm going to leave it as 2x minus 4 plus 15 equals negative 2x. Again, because I'm distributing the negative 2. Negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 1, minus 2. Now I can finally cross off the letter D because I've done all of the distribution that was necessary in this problem. Notice there was 2 steps that involved distribution. So I did not cross it off right away. I crossed it off when I was done. Now I go to the next step. Do I have to combine like terms? I do. This might be our first problem where we have to do every single step. When I combine like terms on the left side, I combine my negative 4 and my positive 15. I get 2x plus 11. On the right, I still have negative 2x minus 2. Combine my like terms. Do I have to get the variable on one side? I do. They're on both sides. So I'm going to pick on the little guy. The little guy in this case is the negative 2x. So I'm going to add 2x here. I'm going to add 2x over here. So I get 4x plus 11 equals negative 2. Cross that step off. Now I get to add or subtract my constant, so I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. I get 4x equals negative 2 minus 11, the same sign, so I'm going to keep them together and add. 11 plus 2 is 13, so it becomes negative 13. Whoa, got a little curvy with that 3, that's all right. My last step is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. So I'm going to divide by 4. Now, it's very important here. When you start with fractions in your original equation, you end with fractions as your answer. So negative 13/4. A lot of people are going to try to plug this into the calculator. Don't plug it into your calculator. You're not even supposed to be using a calculator during this lesson. So leave it as negative 13/4. That is your final answer. Many times my students are confused about where the fraction comes from. The fraction is right here. Negative 13/4. We created it when we divided by 4. So my final answer is x equals negative 13/4. Now, the only thing that I would recommend trying to do here, if you could, well, not recommend, you have to do it. You have to reduce all your fractions. 13 is prime, so I can't reduce it. So my final answer here is negative 13 fourths. Now, I will admit, with an answer like negative 13 fourths, it is a lot more challenging to confirm that your answer is right by plugging it back into the original equation. That's why on these, you really want to attend to precision as you're doing the problem. You want to make sure that every step you're doing, you're checking over your work as you do it, because at the end, it really is a cumbersome process to try to check that answer. All right, let's move on to the next question. Ooh, another one with multiple fractions. Again, first step, what I do is write down the steps. D, C, G, A, M. What's my common denominator? Well, we have 1/2 and we have 3/4. This is the first problem that we've seen where the denominators are different. So what number is a multiple of 2 and 4? Well, that's pretty simple. 4. 2 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 4. Now I distribute. Again, remember that when you distribute, you only distribute to the terms that are outside of the parentheses originally. So that 1/2 gets it, that 3/4 gets it, and the 5 gets it. Remember, not just the fractional terms, every term outside of parentheses. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to distribute that. 4 times 1/2 is 2. What was inside the parentheses stays the same, so x plus 5. 3/4 times 4 is 3, so plus 3 times 3 minus x. And then 5 times 4 is 20. I don't know about you, but it's already starting to look like a much easier problem to solve. I do not have all these fractions anymore. The fractions are gone, which is great. Do have to distribute again, however, so I got to distribute the 2. Then I got to distribute the 3. Don't have anything to distribute on the right-hand side, but that's all right. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line down. Remember, one of the keys here is working on showing all of our steps. If you're choosing to do this on notebook paper, taking pictures, however you're showing your work, make sure you are showing your teachers your work. It's so very important. Many people ask, well, what if I get everything right? Why do I still need to show my work? Well, the reason is if you were to get something wrong, we need to see where you're going wrong. We need to see the process. Questions are only going to get more difficult. We need to make sure that we develop the great groundwork, the great baseline of showing all your work. So here we go. We distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. So 2x plus 10. 3 times 3 is 9, so plus 9. 3 times negative x is negative 3x. Nothing happened on the right. It stayed 20. All right, so the distribution step is done. Combine like terms. It's a biggie. It's going to save us so much time. You always want to combine your like terms. Some people are like, well, I want to subtract 10. Then I'm going to subtract 9. Then I'm going to add 3x. But then I realized that I shouldn't have added 3x. I got to bring the 3x. That's just not efficient. You're going to get incredibly frustrated, and these problems aren't going to be as fun as they are for me. So we got to make sure we combine. Long story short. So 2x minus 3x is negative x. 10 plus 9 is 19. And that is all set equal to 20. We combined our like terms. I do not have to get the variable on one side because it's already only on one side, so I can cross that off. Now I need to subtract my constant, so I'm going to subtract 19. And I get negative x equals 1. Another way to think of this negative sign is it's the opposite of x equals 1. So if I go through and I finish this off, I could divide by negative 1, which is basically taking the opposite. So on opposite day next time, and if you have that at school, you could just say it's divide by negative 1 day. It's a cool math thing. Anyways, that was a nerdy joke, sorry. So what is 1 divided by negative 1? Negative 1. Final answer, x equals negative 1. Again, you could take the time to plug it back in, but again, like I said on the previous problem, These ones are really hard to check. So really the key is to be precise as you go through the problem. X equals -1, final answer, we get to move on. Oh, baby, now we're talking. 3 fractions. Same process. That's the beauty of solving equations. It's like riding a bike. Once you do it a few times, once you follow these steps will always guide you. Always guide you in the right direction. So, distribute. Don't want to distribute fractions, so I want to get rid of the fractions. What's my denominators? I have 5, I have 2, and I have 2. What do 5, 2, and 2 all go into? 10. So that's what I'm clearing with. Multiply by 10, so 10 times 1/5 is 2. Again, remember, when you distribute, you only distribute to what is outside of the parentheses. So I got 4 things I'm distributing to. 5 minus h stays the same. -1/2 times 10, -5. You're wondering how I'm doing that. I'm just doing -1 times 10 divided by 2. -10 divided by 2, -5. What's inside the parentheses stays the same, 3 minus 2h. And then on the right side, 1/2 times 10 is 5. So 5h plus 10. That right there is a huge sticking point. A lot of people want to write +1. Remember, no matter what, if it's outside a parenthesis, it has to be multiplied by what we're clearing. Okay, so that 1 had to be multiplied by the 10. Good. Not done distributing, though. I got to distribute again. So I got to distribute the 2 now and the -5. Draw my line down, keep myself organized. All right, 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times -h is -2h. -5 times 3 is -15. -5 times -2 is +10h. Is all equal to 5h plus 10. All right. Finally done with the distribution step. Combine like terms? Yes, of course I have to. I'm going to combine my coefficients and my constants here. So I'm going to combine my 10 and my -15. I'm going to combine my -2h and my 10h. So -2h plus 10h gives me 8h. Okay, important that you notice that was a -2. Some people get 12h here because they don't realize that the 2h was negative. So 8h, and then 10 minus 15 is -5 equals 5h plus 10. Good. Cross that step off. Do I have to get the variable on one side? Yes, I do. So I'm going to pick on the little guy. I'm going to subtract 5h from both sides. Subtract 5h here. Subtract 5h here. 8h minus 5h is 3h. Minus 5 equals 10. All right, that step's done. Now I add or subtract my constant, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Add 5 to both sides. 3h equals 15. Cross that off. Then I'm going to multiply or divide by my coefficient. In this case, that is divide by 3. Divide by 3. And I get h equals 5. That's my final answer. Again, tough to try to plug that back in. You can take the time to do it, but it's much more efficient to just try to attend to precision as you go through. So that's my final answer there. And we have one more problem to do today. Let's look at it. It's a little different than everything else we've done. The difference here is there's now a fraction. If you look at it, there's a fraction inside the parentheses. So after we clear in our first step, we are still going to be left with the fraction inside parentheses, which is fine. Okay? I like to still, though, think of that fraction in my first step because it's going to help me in the long run. And you'll see what I mean by that. So first step, write my steps on the side. D, C, G, A, M. Okay? Those will always lead you to the promised land. Now, what do I clear with? 3 and 9 are my denominators. So I have 3, and I have 9. So what is the common denominator of 3 and 9? 9. Good. Now when I distribute this, I only distribute to this term and this term. Remember, the parentheses are like another layer of protection. You do not distribute inside of them yet. 9 times 2/3. Two ways to do this. We talked about it in our warm up. We could do 9 times 2 and then divide by 3, which is fine. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Or you could say, all right, 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Either way it works. Keep what's inside the parentheses the same. Okay, that's done. 5/9 times 9, that's an easy one. Just clear the denominator, boom, equals 5. Again, we have to distribute again, but because we took this 3 into account, because we thought about it in the beginning, it will be gone after the second step. 6 goes nicely into that, all right? So 6 times 3x is 18x. 6 times 1/3, that's just 6 divided by 3, that's 2, equals 5. Notice I did not distribute the 6 to the other side of the equal sign because it is not inside of parentheses. I just keep it there. I only distribute to what it's next to. Good. Distribution step done. Combine like terms, don't have to. Get the variable on one side, don't have to do it. Already done for me. Now I just add or subtract, so I'm going to subtract 2. I get 18x equals 3. And then, oh, sorry, I forgot the x. 18x equals 3. And then I divide by 18. And I get x equals 3/18, which hopefully when I even said it made some people, ooh, 3/18, we don't want to write it like that. Always reduce your fractions. 3/18 reduces down to 1/6. And that is my final answer of the final problem of this lesson. So let's wrap it up. Remember, stay organized with your work. We're going to say that over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, you choose what's best for you. If you like using the computer to show your work, by all means. As you see as I'm doing it, it's definitely doable. It's a little cumbersome though. If you want to write out the problems and take pictures of them, I'm thinking that's fine as long as your teacher says that's fine. I know that some people, they prefer that. Either way, make sure you stay organized and show it. Term, remember, is broken up by an addition sign or a subtraction sign. Don't panic. That's huge. Okay, I know some of these problems are going to look very overwhelming at first. You break them down, you look for fractions, you look for common denominators. These problems really are not going to be that overwhelming. Just make sure that if there's fractions left after your second step, you got to work to clear them. Okay, keep clearing. Clear until they're gone, and then finish from solving the problem. Okay, good luck to you, and see you next lesson.